Welcome to our program on Kardec Radio.
Hello, dear friends. I am Correa, and we are here every Tuesday evening at 9 p.m. Eastern Standard Time to study the laws that govern not only our school of the earth, but also the universe. And if we are wondering, Carol, why study the divine laws if we are still getting to know the human laws? The answer, beloved friends, is because the divine laws are immutable, and they are a reflection of the wisdom of the Creator. So whereas the divine laws progress as we as a humanity progress, the divine laws never change. So by studying the divine laws, we are boosting our discernment and wisdom and ability to love, not only for this lifetime, but for many lifetimes to come. And one of the purposes of our many reincarnations is for us to develop the wing of wisdom and the wing of love, so we can fly high and commune with the Creator. Isn't it a beautiful proposal? This is why we invest this precious half hour every Tuesday evening at 9 p.m. Eastern Standard Time on the Kardec Radio platforms to study the constitution of our souls. So welcome, beloved friends. Please, we hope that you can feel the blessings, that we all can feel the blessings that the mentors are offering to all of us out of the kindness and mercy of God that is ever present in our lives. And let us also keep in mind that as we are being blessed by the mercy of God constantly, as we make an effort to tune in to higher frequencies of thoughts and feelings, we are also being of service to the mentors who are working day in and day out to assist humanity in this time of global crisis. So not only are we now investing on our immortal wisdom and love, but also, hopefully, we are being of good service to God. So welcome, and tonight, beloved friends, the focus of our attention will be on questions 879 and 880 found in the Spirit's book. We are still going to be discussing the notion of our rights from a divine perspective. So we will have much to learn together, dear friends. So let us begin. On question 879 of the Spirit's book, Kardec wisely asks, what would be the character of a person who practices justice in all its purity? Kardec is so wise that he explores the notion of justice through many facets. And this is beautiful because Kardec, through this question, is helping us to visualize how to foster our progress for immortality. What shall we do to learn to practice justice in its totality? So let us hear the answer so we can learn together, dear friends. The mentor spirits respond to Kardec and all of us. The truly just individual would follow Jesus's example because they would practice both love of neighbor and charity, without which there is no true justice. Beautiful, very concise answer, and yet filled with beautiful wisdom for all of us. So, what have we learned with the assistance of the mentors on high? Number one, the mentors confirm to us that we have a guide and model, Jesus Christ of the earth, our master. So, first therapeutic question of tonight for all of us, ourselves included. Do we feel as though Christ Jesus of the earth is truly our master? In other words, do we hold him as an example to be followed in our lives? Good question. From a scale from 0 to 10, how much is Jesus Christ our true master? How much does he serve as a point of reference in our day-to-day decisions? How do we know? We may be wondering. Well, when we are about to make daily decisions, do we refer to the Master as an example to meditate upon what he would do in such a circumstance? Going even further, do we know of Master Jesus's actions in detail? Because Spiritism provides us, beloved friends, with such a blessing. Spiritism, through its very rich literature, allows us to have a personal encounter with the Master. In books such as Good News, for instance, that has been studied right here on Kardec Radio, and through the book Jesus in the Home, which we study on Kardec Radio as well, every Monday evening at 6:30 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, and which is fully available in English for us, we can come to understand how the Master behaved, for instance, in relationship to his disciples, how he behaved when he went fishing, what his conversations were like in an intimate setting of Simon Peter's home, how he dealt with conflicts, how he dealt with others' emotional difficulties, how he responded to others when others challenged him, how he practiced forgiveness and understanding. So, thanks to the Spiritist science and literature, beloved friends, the model, Jesus Christ, the governor of the earth, is no longer just on the cross for us. He has beautifully come down from the cross, and he is ready to meet you and I, all of us. Yes, Humberto de Campos in the book Good News, as well as Neil Lúcio in the book Jesus in the Home, describe to us even what Master Jesus's emotional body language is. So as we study these books, we can see the way that he smiled, his tone of voice, his posture, how he faced difficulties coming from the environment, coming from those who were close to him, coming from authorities, coming from apparent strangers. We know what he talked about when he was enjoying meals with the disciples. We know how he spoke to Simon Peter's mother-in-law. We have such richness of detail that if we wish, the Master can truly accompany us. Yes, beloved friends, no longer is the Master confined to ancient or not ancient, but archaic descriptions, thanks to the sacred mediumship of Chico Xavier and the collaboration of higher minds like the spirit of Humberto de Campos and Neo Lúcio, we can bring Master Jesus out of the cross and into our lives. What a blessing! So we have learned tonight together, beloved friends, at the recommendation of the spirits on high, that Master Jesus is the way, the truth, and the light that will lead us to true justice. But for that to take place, we first need to do an inner assessment. 1, do we truly know the Master? 2, are we willing to get to know him personally, in details? 3, when we get to know him, are we willing to follow his steps? Because this is coming not from us on Kardec Radio directly, because we are also learning, we are also enrolled in the School of Life, but this is coming from our educators from the beyond. So where are we in that regard? 1, do we know the Master? 2, are we willing to know the Master? And 3, when we get to know the Master more intimately, are we willing to establish a relationship with him so that he can become our guide in this life? This is what the mentors are proposing. And therefore, by following Master Jesus' examples, we can do or follow the recommendation, the second recommendation that the Spirit Mentors brought to us in question 879, which is the practice of charity, of the Golden Rule. How can we practice charity? In the Gospel, according to Spiritism, dear friends, we learn that there are 2 types of charity. And this is in chapter 13 of the Gospel according to Spiritism by Allan Kardec. In chapter 13, there is the instruction from the spirits, and in that particular section, we learn that type number 1 of charity is that of material charity. This type of charity is the type of charity that we thankfully are more accustomed to on the earth already, which is to provide financial support to those in need. Thankfully, for instance, nowadays, due to the pandemic, there are a lot of food drives taking place. There are a lot of places taking donations of clothing, for instance, of school materials, of electronics. Thankfully, our societies in general are more aware, increasingly more aware of the need to support those who are suffering much more than we are financially. So this is the material charity that we are more accustomed to. But in the Gospel, according to Spiritism, we learn in the instructions coming from the spirits on high that there's yet a second kind of charity. And this kind of type of charity, according to the spirits, is moral charity. What may moral charity entail, beloved friends? Moral charity entails giving of ourselves, not necessarily of material resources, but offering of our spiritual resources to one another. In this global pandemic, we are being called both to develop more virtues and to share what we are cultivating inside the soils of our hearts with one another. Why do we say so, beloved friends? Because now, since we have been practicing social isolation, God has blessed us with the opportunity to stay at home more often than perhaps ever before. Prior to the pandemic, what could have been the quality or nature of our relationships? Perhaps most of us had a superficial relationship with those who lived under the same roof as us. Why do we say superficial? Because though we are together, we didn't necessarily know each other deeply. We may have shared meals with one another, we may have shared conversations, we may have shared financial responsibilities. If we are parents, we may have talked about our children's education, but did we really get to know each other's dreams, each other's hopes, each other's difficulties? Perhaps not, because prior to the pandemic, we may have been too busy going from point A to point B to actually spend quality time with one another. So, with the pandemic, now that we are hopefully spending more time at home, we have more chances of practicing moral charity. How so? If one of our relatives that lives with us, for instance, woke up in a bad mood, we have a choice. We have the choice of taking it personally and taking offense and harvesting that offense, allowing it to boil as in the form of, for instance, silent anger, and offer that person the silent treatment, or engage in mental battle with that person, or we have the choice to pray for them, to be silent, but be silent not in a mental battle, but rather in prayer, asking Master Jesus, our guide and model, to support and soothe that heart, not taking offense, but rather being an instrument of emotional healing for that person through the mercy of God. So because of this pandemic, we have had many precious opportunities daily to be instruments of divine light and hope, to be constructive in our thoughts and feelings, to offer the remedy of compassion to those who live under the same roof as us, to learn, for instance, to do something that seems minor, like cooking at home, while thinking beautiful thoughts and immersing that food that shall nourish the body in vibrations of healing, of hope, of understanding, of love, of compassion, of joy of living, so that those who take in that food for the body also nourish their spirits. This is moral charity. What is another type of moral charity, dear friends? For instance, it is when we notice that someone's temper is becoming a little edgy, and we have a choice yet again. We can respond, and perhaps in this way, by reacting, we can cause an argument to begin or escalate, or we can choose to divert the conversation to a prayer, or we can choose to walk away, not in anger, but as an opportunity for that person to cool down so that an altercation does not take place. So every day in this pandemic, we are having an opportunity to redress relationships, heal relationships, strengthen relationships, find the blessings on relationships that are so close to us. And Emmanuel, the Spirit Emmanuel, through Chico Xavier, in his many enlightening messages, has told us time and again that the home is our greatest school on the earth. Why? Because God, in its immense wisdom, places in the home the exact spirits with whom we are in need of reconciling. And often, beloved friends, before the pandemic, we may have had the tendency to run away, because running away from those challenging ties is a practice that is actually applauded by our current society. It is considered to be beautiful to have 20 items in our to-do list every day and not have a chance to stop. It is considered to be honorable for a mother to drop their children off at a daycare at 6 in the morning and only come back at 6 at night. We understand that some of us don't have a choice at all, and we ask God to bless those of us who cannot make any different choices. God bless all of us who are in this situation, and God knows what is in our hearts. But how about those of us who can choose differently and before the pandemic did not? So the pandemic is bringing us a blessed, perhaps unique opportunity in this reincarnation to practice moral charity towards those who are the closest to us. Because the closest to us, those who are the closest to us, are often the ones to whom we owe the most love. We owe the most kindness. We owe the most compassion, because we reincarnated under the same roof to redress our own choices from the past. Because God does not wish our mistakes made out of ignorance to prevail. God wishes for us to redress our mistakes so that we learn, so that we heal, so that we progress, and so that we establish ties of fraternal love towards those with whom we had difficulty to love before. So, dear friends, also in the Gospel according to Spiritism, chapter 14, item 9, the spirit of Saint Augustine writes a beautiful dissertation speaking of moral charity, the practice of moral charity amongst parents and their children. He explains to us that due to the nature of our spiritual needs, we often reincarnate in family constellations where we meet again supposed enemies of the past. This is why sometimes relationships between parents and their children or children and their parents may be challenging. But St. Augustine has such a beautiful proposal in chapter 14, item 9 of the Gospel. He tells us that when we feel those difficult feelings towards a relative, towards a spirit who reincarnated as our child, or towards the spirit who gave us this physical body as our parents, we are to pray and ask God to allow healing to occur, because we are ready to forgive and to ask for forgiveness. So St. Augustine proposes that when we feel those emotional barriers, that we allow these emotional barriers to dissolve by asking God to give us the strength to forgive and begin anew. After all, this is what a reincarnation is for, is an opportunity for us to renew ourselves, to begin anew. God is so wonderful that God allows us to go through a whole plastic surgery, so we look different, we have different names, different nationalities, different social status, different everything, so that when we meet others whom we are being called to learn to love, we literally start anew. How beautiful, right, dear friends? So now we know that God, in its wisdom, is calling for us to practice moral charity within our own home, because as we learned in question 879 tonight, it is only through the pathway of charity that we shall find true justice. So for our exercise of feeling the scriptures tonight, how about if we choose a particular way to practice moral charity at home? It could be that we cook a meal with love. It could be that we mentally speak to the guardian angels that love us and the guardian angels of our relatives, offering them the best in our hearts and hoping that they help us to serve as bridges of peace between us and our loved ones. How about if we write a note telling our loved ones how much we love them? How about if we make a little list, maybe of 3 items of blessings that our loved ones, our relatives, have brought into our lives? How about if we send someone in our very homes flowers by surprise? We have so many ways to practice charity, and it is not by chance that we are sparkle of light right in our homes, especially in this pandemic. What a beautiful opportunity to develop more wisdom and more love right in the very home where we were placed by God. We are then on our way to being instruments of divine justice as well, because divine justice is composed of love and charity. So we are being instruments of divine justice as we align ourselves with love and charity. Beautiful proposal from the beyond, from the on high, for all of us. May we feel the presence of Master Jesus embracing us at this very moment and letting us know that He shall be by our side until the end of our journeys of progress on the earth and beyond, because He is a master we can count on. Beautiful, dear friends, we wish you many blessings, and we kindly invite you to continue feeling the blessings of God and Master Jesus right here on Kardec Radio, because here we are always nourishing our souls. Big hug to each and every one of you. Many blessings, and we'll see you next time. Bye for now.